Hello, thank you. My name is Joel Z. Williams. I want to talk to you about three main topics on this presentation. I want to talk about class action lawsuits. I want to talk about class action federal lawsuits in particular. And I also want to talk about this concept of integrated pest management. And towards the end, I kind of want to give you some advice as to what to do if you find yourself in one of these predicaments. This particular case is brought to us through the Chicago Sun-Times. This takes place at a housing complex in Waukegan, Illinois, which is a suburb of Chicago. It's a tower. It's called Harry Poe Tower. It's probably 155 units is what I'm told. Three people who were in this tower living there first experienced bedbug problems going back in 2010. They complained to the building manager and subsequently made their complaints known through other agencies that there was a problem, and the building manager's approach was to try to handle it piecemeal, and the problem never really went away. So they filed individually their lawsuits against the Waukegan Public Housing Agency, and named also as a defendant in that case the actual building manager. These cases, let me give a brief primer on federal class action lawsuit. In order for a lawsuit to rise to the level that it can be admitted into the federal court, the plaintiff has to seek damages of up over $75,000. So in order for you to even set foot in the federal courthouse, your damages have to be $75,000 at least. That's hard to do a lot of times when you're a person that's living in federal housing. Oftentimes your housing is being paid for at a subsidized rate. Maybe you're only having to pay $40 a month or whatever your income will allow. Also, a lot of times your medical expenses will be covered by the federal government. So if you do seek treatment for bedbug bites, it's hard, because that is being paid for, it's hard to show actual damages of over $75,000. So what happens usually in these cases is plaintiffs will join their cases together. And here we had three litigants that were seeking relief from the public housing agency there, and joined their groups together. And so we got three separate law firms: Finn and Finn, Jedstone and Associates, and Lipman Law Firm out of Des Moines, Iowa. So they did a class action lawsuit. They pooled their resources and sued the building manager and the executive director of the public housing agency. Now let's talk about integrated pest management and how that works as it relates to federal funding. What I try to tell people: if you live in housing that is being subsidized, meaning the state or federal government is paying your rent for you to live there, you don't have to suffer quietly. The federal government does not want to throw good money after bad. If they are paying your rent and you live in a place that is defined as uninhabitable, habitability is defined as something. Let me give you an example. It's something that would render the dwelling that you're living in worthless. So commercially worthless. So if you were, in other words, you are looking on the market to rent an apartment. You walk up into the apartment and there's a hole in the roof, or the water's not running, or the toilet's not running, or there's a hole in the floor. You're not going to rent that apartment. So that apartment has no value. So that usually is the definition of habitability. According to the Centers for Disease Control in Atlanta, they are the agency that gives the federal Section 8 and other housing subsidizers that use federal funds. The CDC is the agency which defines what is habitable in certain living conditions. Like, for example, they will allow a certain amount of roaches per square feet of unit. They will allow a certain amount of mice per square unit, even rats in some instances, as long as the entity that is renting those apartments is showing that they are participating in a program to abate that problem, that vermin, that those pests. So far, the CDC has not made an extension of habitability for bed bugs. In other words, what the CDC is saying is there is no level of bed bugs that would be considered habitable. And we know anybody who's ever lived with bed bugs can tell you from firsthand experience, as the infestation progresses, the bugs get bigger and bigger and they multiply, and those bugs start feeding on you, and the problem just gets worse. It's not like roaches, where roaches are not seeking you as a food source. They're seeking, you can clean, you can remove food sources, you can cover food sources, you can take steps to prevent roaches from having contact with you. Bed bugs are not like that. They unique in the sense that they are blood obligate. They have to feed on you or they die. So they don't have a choice in the matter. And so for that reason, the CDC has not allowed the presence of bed bugs they have not made any exceptions, no caveats. There are bed bugs in there. There needs to be a treatment program to get them out. Now, let me back up to this tower. It's called Harry Poe Manor. Okay, what's going on here, and this is something that I see time and time again. The building manager has a limited budget. He's got 155 units that he has to deal with, broken windows, he has toilets that are plugged. Bed bugs are just another one of his many problems that he has to deal with. And through his lens, he's looking at bed bugs as another cockroach, because they're about the same size, they're also brown. In his mind, it's the same thing. It's a bug, it's an arthropod. We'll go in there, we'll spray pyrethroids, which are insecticides that are known to kill any crawling insect, spiders, silverfish, roaches. We'll treat it the same way. That's how most building managers approach the situation of bed bugs. What they fail to realize is the bed bug is uniquely adapted to survive close to human. This over 5,000 years of evolution and evolving and living with humans has made it uniquely adapted to lay an egg that literally can stay as a ticking time bomb, can literally stay hidden away for up to 2 years at room temperature, and then can erupt and reinfest the entire apartment. Building managers often are not equipped to deal with that. They can't wrap their mind around that. So what happens is they get an infestation unit that is infested, and using their building manager mindset, they go, oh, well, it's the same thing as roaches. So all I'll need to do is move that party out and clean that up, because naturally bed bugs are a result of filth and people not being clean, which is a falsehood. We all know that the bed bug can exist as well as in a 5-star restaurant and hotel in New York City as it can in a hovel off the coast of Mexico. So it doesn't matter, the cleanliness does not matter to a bed bug. As long as they're close to a host, that's all that matters to them. But in the building manager's mindset, oh, well, that person was filthy. They had trash in their apartment. They were just messy. If I just move that person out, I spray the building with pyrethroids, and then I can move somebody back in. No need to tell the new tenants that there was a pre-existing condition of bed bugs that might materially affect the habitability of that dwelling. No need to do that. No need to bother with that. And so here's the catch, and here's where the brilliance of these type of lawsuits come in. What these three firms, Finn & Finn in particular, one of their assertions when they bring this lawsuit to the judge, they say, Judge, the CDC has not allowed any presence of bed bugs, and they will not authorize the federal government to spend money on a dwelling that has bed bugs, right? And of course that gets argued, and the parties have to agree. Yeah, that's the standing. That's what the law is, and that's the precedent. Oh, okay. Well, if that's the case, then the part of the way that the CDC will allow it is if there is an integrated pest management plan, and if on file, and the party, the housing agency is following that integrated management plan, right? Is that correct? That's what the attorneys are going to argue. The other side has to agree, because that's the only way that the CDC will allow the federal funds to keep trickling into that building, is if that building manager is observing the integrated management plan. Boom, they've got him on the hook. That integrated management plan, one of the main cornerstones of that plan is that all the tenants have to be informed of the presence of bed bugs. And all the tenants have to get a brochure or some kind of documentation telling them, hey, if you see discarded furniture, don't reclaim it. If you go over to your friend's house and you're taking belongings with you, don't set them on the floor. All these things, but this integrated pest management plan doesn't work unless there's full disclosure to everyone in the building. And that's where the building manager and the public housing agency director get in trouble, because they don't want to disclose that fact because of the problem that I talked about earlier, habitability. Nobody is going to rent an apartment if it's open knowledge that that apartment probably has bed bugs. The value of that apartment has just went from whatever it was to zero. And that is what is happening, is that they are misrepresenting a known material defect. They are not allowing the tenants to know. And in this particular case, they even sent cease and desist letters to these three plaintiffs to keep them from informing potential residents that there was a problem. And that's when these egregious behavior elevates and rises to the level of a federal lawsuit. Okay, so I covered most of it in there. I'll reiterate later, and we'll do hangouts on Google Plus. I try to do that weekly now so that you can voice your questions. But what I want you to take away from this: if you are living in a place that is receiving money from the federal or state government to help you with your housing, you have a voice, and you don't have to suffer quietly. If you can join with your neighbors and they are suffering from the same problem, then you want to put the building manager on notice that they have to do something about it. Again, my name is Joel Z. Williams. I am the Poor People's Advocate. You will recognize me by my white hat, but you will know me by my virtuous ways. Thank you.